Big crowd out there, huh? That's great. That's great. And you folks are going to tell me about the EU, okay, with respect to their tariffs? Because they like tariffing things. So you're going to tell me about that, okay? With regard to lobster.
I would like to say one thing to start off, if you'd like.
You'll speak, yeah. Do you want to speak in front of the press?
Yeah. A lot of the main companies, lobster companies, have been forced to open up companies in Canada to send their lobster to the Far East and to Europe because we don't have an agreement with the EU. And of course, China levied a 40% tax on Maine lobster, U.S. lobster. So what they're...
So easy to handle.
Yeah.
All you have to do is put a tariff on them and you'll have it done in about 2 minutes, right? And we'll talk about that.
Yep.
So the EU, in other words, charges a tariff.
Yes.
And therefore the Maine lobster people
have to pay 20%.
Have to pay 20%, is it, or 40%?
Yes, it's about 20%.
So they have a tariff, so it no longer makes it competitive.
And if it comes from Canada, Canada has an agreement with the EU, and there's no tariffs. And in addition to that, the Canadian dollar is 30% weaker than the American dollar, and therefore they're making a killing.
I got it. That's an easy one to handle. That's like easy.
Good.
Hi, everybody. We'll talk about that, okay? So I want to thank you all very much. We just had a big press conference at the White House. You probably saw in the Rose Garden, the beautiful Rose Garden. There was about 100 degrees. It's okay. And the U.S. economy added 2.5 million jobs. It was supposed to lose 9 million. They were slightly off. So instead of losing 9 million, in fact, when they read it, they thought there was a typo. When the numbers came out this morning at 8:30, they read it, they thought there was a typo. Probably the greatest month we've ever had. I guess if you look at the charts, we gave the charts to the fake news media. They have them, and probably the greatest month we ever had in terms of that. And we haven't even started yet because New York is closed, which is starting to open, and California is essentially closed but starting to open. So this is the largest monthly jobs increase in American history, and that's more than double the previous record, which was a long time ago. Economists forecast that the unemployment rate would rise to over 19%. Instead, it fell to 13%.
That's correct.
Slight difference, right, Paul? Former governor of this great state, Paul LePage, and a friend of mine for a long time. We added 1.2 million leisure and hospitality jobs, 464,000 construction jobs, 424,000 education and health service jobs, 368,000 retail jobs, and 225,000 manufacturing jobs. You remember, Paul, under the previous administration, they said there'd be no manufacturing.
Yeah, we lost.
And they didn't call that one too well, either did they. They didn't call too many things too well. The report showed that nearly 80% of the unemployed workers were in a temporary layoff. That's a great thing. That means they all expect to go back to work, indicating that they could quickly return. 73% of small businesses are now open. How about that? Up from 52% last month. And the S&P 500 just had the best 50 days in the history of the stock market. Pretty amazing. And we've just started. We're going to have the greatest year. Next year will be the greatest year, I think, economically speaking, in history for our country. Only one thing can stop it. Somebody like Sleepy Joe Biden. Once they raise taxes, open borders, they want to open the borders. Can you imagine opening borders right now? Tijuana is the most heavily infected place anywhere in the world as far as the plague is concerned. You know, the plague came in from China, unfortunately. Most heavily infected, or one of the most heavily infected, right along the border. But we built a wall. We have up to 200 miles now, more than 200 miles of wall. By the end of the year, we'll have 400 plus. And we'll have it finished very shortly, fully financed, everything done, despite we were totally opposed by the other party, as you know. But they want open borders. That would be bad, but they want to raise taxes, and that would be a disaster. So I think we're going to have a great victory, and we're going to take care of law enforcement. because law enforcement, they're saying defund the police. Defund, think of that. When I saw it, I said, what are you talking about? We don't want to have any police, they say. You don't want police. First, they didn't want ICE. They do want sanctuary cities, which are a disaster. But they say they're going to defund the police. In other words, they're not going to pay police. They don't want to have any police, the real ones. And Biden is bought into it, but he doesn't know what's going on. So, he just doesn't know. But the people around him know what's going on. And they want to defund the police. They don't want to have police. So I want to thank you very much for being here. I'm thrilled to be with my friends from the great state of Maine, with leaders from the fishing, crabbing, and lobster industries, very important industries, and you never have been treated properly, or at least for the last long period of time. We're also joined by Secretary of the Interior David Bernhardt and a very good friend of mine, former Governor Paul LePage. Paul, thank you very much for being here. You did a great job running this state, I can tell you that. As we work to fully reopen and revitalize our nation's economy, I'm doing everything in my power to support American workers, including those in Maine's amazing seafood industry. It's a big industry, but a lot of people have not been taking care of this industry. We have, and that's why we're here. We're going to take care of it even better starting today. We were all very excited to see the blockbuster 2.5 million jobs added last month, far exceeding any expectations. Not even the wildest expectations thought it was supposed to be down 9 million, and it was up 2.5 million. I would say their estimators didn't do too good a job. Under the last administration, commercial fishermen and Maine lobstermen were suddenly informed that nearly 5,000 square miles of ocean off the coast of New England would be closed to commercial fishing without justification. Is that right? 500? No, you got to be kidding. Is that right?
That's correct, sir.
So they just closed it. They said you can't fish. But let me guess, other countries do, right?
No, exactly.
It's inside
They
the
do.
200 miles.
This action was deeply unfair to Maine lobstermen, threatened to cripple family businesses and cost America's fishermen millions of dollars. So they closed 5,000 square miles of ocean off your coast, right? That's amazing, Paul. How did they let that happen?
Obama just used.
That was President Obama. Thank you very much. With a pen. Was that done in the form of an executive?
In the very last few days of his administration.
You're going to fix
We're
that.
opening it, right?
You're fixing it.
So we're opening it today. We're undoing his executive order. Why would that be? It's ridiculous. What reason did he have for closing 5,000 miles? That's a lot of miles. 5,000 square miles is a lot.
Yeah.
He didn't have a reason, in my opinion. All right, so we're opening it up. Today I'm signing a proclamation to reverse that injustice, to reverse that order from the previous administration, and we are reopening the Northeast Canyons and the Seamounts Marine region to commercial fishing. Is that okay? Is that what you want? Yeah? That's an easy one. For me, I can't even believe they can do a thing like that. It's a terrible thing. That's a terrible thing. So America's blessed with some of the richest ocean resources anywhere in the world, except when they close it up. And yet we have a $16.6 billion seafood trade deficit and import over 85% of the fish we consume. No wonder you have 5,000 miles that's closed up. Who would think that we import 85% of the fish from other countries that are your competitors. And we have the best fishing areas in the world, I would think, right? Is that among the best fishing areas anywhere in the world? How does it compare to other locations in the world?
Georges Bank is a very rich fishing area in the world.
And for lobster, the best, right?
Yeah.
The best in the Gulf of
For
Maine.
lobster.
And Atlantic scallops.
And scallops. I like scallops. Good. We'll have plenty of scallops to eat. This is why I've taken decisive action. And we're going to send our fishermen out there. You're going to go fishing in that area now that you haven't seen for a long time. Lobstermen and seafood producers, I want to just congratulate you. Last month, I signed an executive order to begin an accelerated review and reduction of all unnecessary regulations on the seafood industry. So who's doing that, David? Who's working?
The Department of Commerce.
Okay? You'll make sure that gets done quickly.
Absolutely.
Okay? This guy, when I give him something, it gets done between him and Peter, we have the right people. So Peter, you'll make sure that you and David.
This is a great thing for the state of Maine. These two executive orders together is going to bring back commercial fishing in a big way. Sir, that is some of the most fertile fishing grounds in the entire world that's been shut off.
And we've gone through all of the machinations, all of the work, so we can sign this now. Takes a while to get it done, but we're getting it done. Not easy, because they did it in such a way that it's not easy. I ordered the formation of a trade task force that will identify opportunities to open foreign markets to our seafood exports. We're going to talk about the European Union, who constantly take advantage of us on trade. Nobody knows that. And I'm further cracking down on illegal harvested and imported seafood. That's a big deal too, right? What does that mean, illegally harvested? Who wants to answer that question? Go ahead.
Fish, they call it EI fish, illegally harvested fish, that some countries don't enforce fisheries conservation rules. In our country, we do. So if a country is off their coast and they don't have to
So they don't have
rules,
the thing, so they
don't have any rules, they can catch fish.
So our conservation rules, are they overly tough or are they ridiculous? Because other countries don't have any conservation rules, right? Most other countries.
We
Are
have
our rules fair and good, or are they not?
We have a lot of rules in place that are preventing us from harvesting sustainably some of the resources out here. The fact that I'm in the groundfish industry, the resources off New England are at a record high.
You got to talk a little.
The resources off New England are at record levels. Never been recorded in history that they're so high, but we're underfishing.
Because you're underfishing.
We're underfishing
Is that
them
because of regulations?
because of antiquated regulations that you can never get rid of something that's in place.
So are we then looking at those regulations, Peter, or not?
Sir.
Because let's do it.
That's
I mean,
what
we
you've
came
asked
up here for a different reason, but
Yeah.
let's look at those.
One
So
of
in
the
other words, you have more product than we've ever had before because you're not allowed to use it. You're not allowed to fish, basically.
You're not allowed to fish, and some of the problem, and when I was governor, I encountered it. If you go to Commerce, and Commerce sends you to NOAA, and there's a lot of bureaucrats in NOAA that really put on some hurtful penalties and regulations on the fishermen.
So they were so burdensome that you can't fish.
Correct.
So now what's happening, it's being
Or you
taken
can't
over.
afford to fish.
You can't what?
They're so burdensome that you can't afford to fish. They make it so that if you
Probably both. You can't fish and you can't afford to
and
fish.
you can't afford to fish.
So let's open it up, Paul.
Yep.
Nobody better than Paul LePage to get this going, in my opinion. So can I ask you to work on with
Absolutely.
My two great guys,
I
Peter
would
and David?
be more than happy.
And let's open it up, okay? And we want conservation. I'm a believer in conservation, but they've gone crazy. And then other countries, they don't have the same, so you have a much more expensive product. You have a better product, but you're not allowed to even get it in many cases, right?
That's correct.
It's amazing. So I ordered the formation of a task force, and today I did something else. I put Paul LePage in charge of trying to figure that one out, which you already have figured out, I suspect. You've been living with that a long time. And you've been unable to get previous administrations to do anything about this.
That is
right?
correct. And it was particularly bad under the Obama administration. I spent
Well,
6 years.
they kept piling it on.
They just kept piling it on and delay.
And why did they do that? Just because they thought environmentally or something? Right? Not really. Politically, they did.
It was a little bit of a political stunt because, unlike yourself and I, we're friends. Obama and I were not friends, and
Maybe
it was
he
very
also
difficult
nice
to get
other
to
countries.
talk to him.
He might have also been nice to other countries, right? Like Canada, right? He might have been nice to other countries, like Canada.
Yes, he was.
So I ordered the formation of a task force, thank you, Paul, that will identify opportunities to open foreign markets to our seafood experts. I'm further cracking down on illegal harvested and imported seafood. That's what your problem was, right? So we're cracking down on it. I recently signed into law $300 million to help our nation's fisheries. Maine will receive $20 million, and you're going to get more than that now as we start breaking this crazy thing up. You know, I always think of this as a great fishing state, but you're so restricted, it really stops you from being a great fishing state. I'm going to ask David Bernhardt, though, and Peter Navarro to really get involved and get this done quick. This is ridiculous, okay? Can I do that? So I want every American who works out of the ocean and works in the ocean and fishes for all of the different things and the treasures to let you know that we're behind you 100%. You do an incredible job. And we want conservation. We want good environmental practices, very important. But we also want something that's fair to you. They've taken your livings away. I've been hearing about this for a long time in Maine and other places up here. I'd let it extend to other places that are also affected. Canada's given a tremendous advantage over the United States because of the practices of the previous administration and probably others. So we're not going to let that happen. As an example, I heard that Canada doesn't have to pay a tariff going into Europe.
That's correct.
But you do.
And we do.
Okay. So
And then
if that goes on, then we're going to do something that's going to make that look like small time.
And last year we were sending, or 2 years ago, we were sending a lot of product to China, and then China put a tariff on us for 40% because of some of the trade issues between our two countries.
And what happened to the tariff? Is it on now?
Oh, it's not gone down. I haven't checked lately, but you're still paying the tariffs, right? The lobster's still going to Canada, and from Canada they go over free, but it's just an added expense to the Maine lobsterman, who also has a 30% disadvantage.
So you're saying China charges a 40% tariff? And how big is the tariff that the European Union charges?
20 or 22?
Okay. And this country, because of stupidity for years, hasn't charged them
And the
anything.
funniest part of this whole issue is the Canadian lobster we're talking of and the Maine lobster come out of the same water.
Are they the same lobster, would you say, basically?
Yes.
Would you say they're equivalent as lobster?
They're equivalent. They're
Is
from
there a
they're
difference
the
in
Gulf of
size
Maine.
or type? Any difference?
They're coming out of the
It's
Gulf
the
of
same
Maine.
lobster. So you're set up with a 20% tax that they don't have, so they have a very good thing. And that's European Union, right?
Yep.
The European Union has ripped this country off so much, it's unbelievable.
And I'll
it's
tell you
so
that-
easy to solve. I'm going to call them, David. You're going to come in, write a letter, and if they don't change, we're going to put a tariff on their cars until they change, and they'll change right away. Okay? It's unbelievable how badly, people hear about the European Union, sounds nice. They've been almost as bad over the years as China in terms of trade, but nobody talks about it. There's a perfect case, Maine lobster. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
We're going to charge an equivalent plus tariff to them if they don't drop their tariff on your lobster and seafood, okay? And we can do that. Peter, do you agree with that? Do you like it?
We need to
Let me
strike
put
back.
you in charge of that one.
need to
That's a
strike back.
natural for you. Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
That's a natural for you. European Union charges us a tariff. They don't charge Canada a tariff. This is for the press. So Canada doesn't pay a tariff for the same exact lobster in the same waters, but we pay a tariff. If European Union doesn't drop that tariff immediately, we're going to put a tariff on their cars, which will be equivalent, come in for nothing, which is ridiculous. Okay? Do you understand? It's going to be the equivalent plus.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be the equivalent plus. Watch how fast that tariff comes off. All right? Watch how fast. It should be plus, plus, plus. Okay? I'm going to put Peter Navarro in charge of it. That's perfect for him. I'll take that one off your plate, okay?
Thank you.
All right, Peter Navarro, you're in charge of it.
Okay.
Right? Thank you. This country has been treated so badly on trade for so many years. We have such bad agreements. We're breaking so many of them up. It's been treated so badly, it's hard to believe.
Canada, in some respects, Canada has been our worst enemy in the produce industry. We cannot send.
Canada's
meat
been very tough. Canada charged in Wisconsin, before I got up and changed it, 287% tariffs on dairy products.
Yeah.
So think of it. And they kept it at 287. They didn't want to make it 300 because they thought somebody might find out. And until I became president, nobody knew. I ended it. But they were charging Wisconsin and our farmers 287% tariffs to send dairy products to Canada. So therefore you didn't send. You couldn't compete.
You couldn't compete.
And our people didn't charge them anything.
That's correct.
Canada's been very tough Very tough. You know why? Because they got away with it, that's all. Because people sitting here didn't know what the hell they were doing. Okay. But the deal has worked out. You know, the New Deal is a good deal. It's got rid of all that stuff. But we didn't talk about lobster. But Peter Navarro's going to be the lobster king now, okay? All right, Peter?
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
look,
We'll
you
get
can do
after
it.
it.
Let's see what you can do.
Dear to my heart.
Let's see what you can do.
This state right here, Maine, is dear to my heart. I spent a lot of
There's
time
another
here over the
vegetable
years.
that most people don't speak of, and can't bring to Canada, and we're one of them. We have a company in Maine that is one of the major growers of broccoli in the country.
Broccoli. And
In the summer, they're in Maine. In the winter, they're in Florida. But what has happened in the last few years is the Canadians bring their broccoli into market. They have a 30% advantage on the exchange rate, and so we can't sell our broccoli, and we can't send it to Canada.
that's our big thing
That's
with the
the
dollar.
overvalued
That's
dollar.
what you and I talk about.
Yeah.
Right? The dollar that
I'd
everybody
love
says
to do that
doesn't
one
matter.
too, sir. I mean, make me the
Want
dollar
to handle
king
broccoli in
too.
the same way?
What's that?
Is it broccoli primarily that and the lobster, seafood, etc.?
There are a couple others. There's broccoli, blueberries. Blueberries, Maine used to grow 90% of the wild blueberries in the world.
So where's it done now?
Canada, New Brunswick, and Quebec have got 300,000 acres on, and so now Maine's blueberries are selling below growing cost.
And when you talked about the Obama administration about this, they did nothing. Right?
They did nothing. I spent a lot of time in Congress.
Let's get on this.
The three things plus the seafood. This man he's a believer. He knows exactly what to do. I don't have to tell him a thing. And you guys will work on the other stuff together, okay? Any questions, by the way? Questions? Shouldn't be any questions after that. You got more than you would have ever thought.
I will just make one more comment.
Amazing.
I will make one more comment, and we need your help on. As the country is reopening, of course, right now Maine is still tied up pretty tight because we have a governor that's not reopening very fast. But as
Why
we reopen,
isn't your governor opening up your state?
I don't know. We don't know.
All these states are being open. They're making a lot of money. That's why we had the good numbers today. You have a governor that doesn't know what she's doing, and she's like a dictator.
Yes,
you
she
know?
is.
Why isn't she opening up your state?
Well, one thing that she's doing is the $600 a week that the people on unemployment are
Right.
getting. She is allowing them to continue to collect when they're called back to work, and so people aren't coming back to work. And everybody in this room knows of people.
So she's taking advantage of the system,
Yes,
but she's not letting them come back anyway because you're shut down.
that's right. But the few that would, I know of 3 cases last week. By an employer told me that these 3 people were called back. I reported them that I have work for them, but they're still getting the $600.
What would you say about that, Peter?
Look, this whole problem in the bill where we're paying people to stay home.
Yeah.
It's
You know, it works
doing
in some
tremendous
states.
damage.
Yeah.
Doing tremendous damage to our economy because it's keeping people home, and the
The
longer people
Democrats
stay
wanted
home,
this. Feather bedding, okay? But the Democrats wanted it. We said it wouldn't work, and we were right.
And it works.
But honestly, it's
It
good.
works in Republican states.
It does work in Republican states. But the Democrats wanted it, and we negotiated, but it's unnecessary,
Correct.
and it makes it overly complex. But a place like this, we're straightening it out. Any further legislation, we're straightening it out. And we just did PPP today, so
The legislation is fine if everybody follows the rules.
Yeah.
But if a governor
you
decides
see,
to,
she's not supposed to be doing that.
that's correct.
So when she doesn't do that, it's fine.
That is
But the
correct.
governor is playing cute.
If you call someone to work, and they refuse to go to work, you tell the state, and the state will take their unemployment
That's
away.
right, exactly. So she's not supposed to be doing that.
That's correct.
Let's call her on that, please.
yeah,
Call her
so
legally. Not
people
allowed
of
to.
Maine want to work.
Yes,
they do not
they
want
do.
a handout. They
When
want to
is
work.
she opening the state, if ever?
I think there's another move in July. There's going to be another move in July. She started opening up some of the restaurants that you can have, 6
Very
social
small.
distancing and 50%.
And you don't have a big problem up here. So why is she doing this?
Well, what she's afraid of, or what she's claiming, is that in the summer, Maine only has 1.3 million people, but we have 40 plus million visitors a year, 30 plus million in 3 months. And she's afraid that if she doesn't quarantine the entire state, that these folks are going to bring
Yeah, the
the
problem
virus.
is, though, those 3 months are your Christmas, right?
Yeah, you got it. It's our
Tiffany
season.
likes December. You like these 3 months. So she's going to get rid of all of your wealth, and you're
Exactly.
never going to recover that.
That is correct. And so what I've advised her to do,
Not good.
what I've tried her to do is, everybody, you can only get into Maine 2 ways, well, 3 ways. The Canadian border, the 95, or Route 2.
Right.
So if you put somebody at Route 2, everybody's got a foreign plate, an out-of-state plate. You
check
get their name, telephone number, where they're going to be. Problem solved. If you
It's
have
not
an
a big
uptick,
problem.
you go right there.
So you're giving away your tourist season this year because it's
That's correct.
starting, right? So
That
you're
is
giving
correct.
away your tourist system.
Yes.
I mean, she must know this, right?
I would think she's a
No,
right
how
lady.
does she do a thing like this? She's going to destroy your state. All right, look, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. We're going to solve your fishing problem. We're going to solve something that nobody thought was solvable. We'll solve it very easily. And Peter, you're going to handle that
Get on
other
it.
situation.
Right on.
It's an incredible. Would you like to say something, folks? Go ahead.
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mr. President. It's an honor to
Thank you. It's my honor.
it's an honor to be here to discuss with you the importance of commercial fishing to our country. I am the Executive Director of Associated Fisheries of Maine, and I have more than 30 years' experience in regional, national, and international fisheries management. And in all of that time, I have never known a president to express a concern about the well-being of our fishing and seafood industries. So thank you very much for your interest, for your executive order promoting American seafood, for this announcement that you've made today, which will allow our fishermen to go back to work. The Antiquities Act
And we're
process.
doing that immediately. Are we doing that as of immediately?
You're opening up 5,000 square miles
As of-
with the stroke of a pen.
As of when?
The minute you sign it,
I better get
you will
going
begin
with the sign.
planning, and
I
you're
get my
taking
fishing
down
pole.
you're taking down a no fishing sign
Yeah.
and opening up.
I love that.
The process by which this monument was established is a non-transparent process that does not allow for stakeholder input, does not produce any kind of economic analysis of the negative impacts, and prevents all of us from enjoying the benefits of our healthy marine resources. So again, we appreciate that you've recognized that and are taking action to correct that.
And your senators, where were your senators for all these years? What happened?
They abdicated their responsibility. They went home early this year because it's an election year and gave all their power to our governor.
So in addition to the opposition from the fishing industry, the Secretary of Commerce has also heard about opposition from the all 8 regional fishery management councils to establishing these monuments outside of the regular management process. So there has been a great deal of opposition to that, and now you're correcting
What would you
it.
do about that?
Well,
The monuments, what would you do?
the management of fisheries within our exclusive economic zone is rightfully managed under the Magnuson-Stevens Fisheries Conservation and Management Act. So we have a process to do that. We don't need the Antiquities Act to be establishing monuments that restrict
So
fishing.
what do you need?
You're bringing that process back.
Well,
You're
this
bringing that
order
will
will take care of our
Okay, so
immediate
you're going to
need.
be okay,
You're
and this is going to do
you're
most
gonna
of it.
take that back.
That's a big thing, right?
Yes.
You're so lucky I'm president. You are so lucky. I don't even know you, and you're so lucky.
Well, we're also looking to a pending action by the New England Fishery Management Council and the National Marine Fisheries Service, which will likely be voted on sometime in the fall, which would establish a requirement for our fishing boats to carry 100% of observers or at-sea monitors on all of our trips at our own expense. And this could be as much as $40,000 a year for some of our vessels. This is simply an expense that we cannot afford at this time, especially on the heels where we will be trying to recover from this pandemic, which has had a huge impact on the commercial fishing industry in New England. We certainly cannot afford an additional expense that is totally discretionary. The law does not.
What's happening with that, David?
That's in process.
Huh?
That's in
Get it
process.
done.
It's
That's
We'll
part
get
of
it done.
your,
You're not going to have to.
Again, I just put it on
Sir,
your
that-
radar, Mr. President, so
So
that
let
we
me
can
ask you a
deal with it in
question.
the future.
So European Union charges you a 20% tariff, and is China charging a 40% tariff, or is that not? What's China charging? 40.
I'm not familiar with that.
Or not? You know, Paul?
What? China right now is charging a tariff on Maine lobster going to China.
How
And
much?
Our sales to China have gone from like 600,000 pounds to less than 100,000 pounds.
So you went from 600,000 pounds, that's the way you go, to 100,000 pounds. So you're way down.
And the only
Is
way
that because of the tariff?
Yes.
Okay.
What they do.
So, Peter,
what-
corresponding tariff to China for pick a product, a corresponding plus if they don't drop the tariff on Maine lobster going into China. Okay?
Yes, sir.
It's very simple, and I don't mind.
Yeah, the distribution companies have had to set up companies in Canada. They ship their.
No, I know, that's what they do. They go through different companies. It's called transshipping,
Yeah.
to be exact. They transship. Okay, ready?
Yes, sir.
China, EU. All you do is say, that's okay, keep charging us, and we're going to charge you a corresponding on something that they sell that's very precious to them. Put a it should be for the same amount plus.
Yes, sir.
We'll take care of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. President, we operate a few boats here in Maine, but we also operate some scallop boats and some factory processors out in Alaska. And there is a tariff on the flatfish that's shipped into China that stays there. So if we want to ship to them and develop a market in China, they do enforce a 25% tariff on it. What we have available to us is if they do process some of the fish, it's shipped back to the United States, and there is no tariff on that coming in at this present time.
So what you're saying is we don't charge them a tariff, but they charge us a tariff.
That's exactly right.
How stupid is that?
We're working on
How
it.
stupid is that, free traders? I tell you, the free traders out there that are always talking about this, oh, we're free traders. How stupid is that? So they charge us, and then we don't charge them.
Yeah, you'll be
And
pleased
they
to.
get paid for doing the work on top of everything.
You'll be pleased to know that we just had
We'll take
a
it.
Zoom meeting with Senator Sullivan last night. He's working on it. He's going to be in touch with a few people. He wanted to say hello to you.
Sullivan's a good man.
Yeah, yeah.
Sullivan's a good man. He'll try, but
Yeah.
nobody can do this like I can.
It's like everybody, though. We're all trying to do it. but
It's simple.
Yeah,
It'll be done.
thank you.
It's very simple. He's a good guy, Dan Sullivan. Paul, you've said enough. David, you have anything to say real fast?
Well, I would like to thank you for taking the time to come listen to the fishing community. Since the moment you took office, you've been clear and consistent in your efforts to bring common sense back to the executive branch. You've done more than any president in our lifetime to bring common sense to government. And when you think about it, 5,000 square miles is an area that's larger than the state of Connecticut, the state of Delaware, or Rhode Island. And the prior administration essentially put a no fishing sign up to these individuals with the stroke of a pen. And you're addressing it. And your effort to ensure the voices of the people are heard is deeply appreciated across the country. The folks here, they go out, they brave the nation's waters, they bring an incredible natural resource benefit to the world, and they have the challenging task of facing whatever Mother Nature puts in front of them. They should not be in a situation where they're also having to fight their own government. And they needed common sense bureaucracy, and you're bringing it. And in doing so, we are not changing the boundaries of the monument, and we will remain protecting those objects that need and are appropriately protected by doing this. So thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And these two people will get it done. By luck, I happen to have the two right people with me. All right? Please.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Christian Porter. I'm a commercial fisherman. I've been fishing for over 30 years. I fished for about everything over those
And you
years.
love doing that. You wouldn't switch for anything, even though they don't let you fish anymore.
No, well, I fish for different things. I fish for scallops now, and I fish for lobster.
But you love it, right?
I love it. It's a way of life, Mr. President.
No, they love it. People love it. You wouldn't switch
No,
to be
and-
president, right?
Right.
You're making a good decision.
So, and I'm president of the Maine Lobstermen's Association, and we support the Maine Lobster Fleet supports 10,000 jobs on the water and another 5,500 shoreside jobs. So that's why I'm passionate about working with regulations.
Do people
and stuff.
come in? It must be other countries. They must send their ships into this 5,000 big mile stretch.
No,
right?
they can't. They can't come in through the
Really?
easy.
So we
Yep.
get them out through what? The Coast Guard, the
Yep.
Navy. We get them out.
Yep.
So we police it at least, right?
Yeah,
Good.
right.
So go ahead.
So, keeping our nation's fishery strong is a passion of mine. That's why it's great to have this opportunity to talk to you about the process of the Northeast Canyons of Seamount. Rather than work with the constituents who actually fish there and were most knowledgeable about the issue, like this guy right here, this monument was formed in back rooms with special interests. This created
When
poor
during
policy.
the other administration, you mean? Which
yes.
administration? Obama.
The Obama administration did this
Well,
at the very last.
He's done Maine a tremendous disservice, I can tell you. Just from a common sense standpoint, how could you let a thing like this happen?
This created poor policy. It hurt the fishermen, and we really worry about the precedent it sets. That you can close large areas of ocean and put all the rest of us who fish for different things in smaller and smaller boxes. So, and that hurts everybody.
So by opening up this 5,000 miles, this is a treasure chest.
It spreads boats out, yes. And
Did you ever think this was going to happen in your lifetime?
I did not. But the biggest thing is now people think when they're going to close this, they've got to go through the process. Fishermen need to have the input into this.
Right.
And we didn't. And so, it's not the only thing. There's other things. I just want to, as a lobsterman, bring up something that I would be run out of town if I didn't bring up to you. It's kind of the same situation. Our fishery is in great shape through years and years of good management. But despite our tremendous success, we find our industry being risk of being shut down because of the endangered right whale.
The endangered white whale.
Right whale. And we've been in
And
excellent.
why is that? In other words, because you have to be so careful? What is it?
The entanglements and what
Is that in the same area that we're talking about?
No, it's a different area. It's along the coast of Maine. So our association, our executive director has had great conversations with your staff. One of them's here today. Alex Willett is here. He's up to speed on this. You had
Just, go really quick because we have to leave.
yeah,
Let me
we
ask you
had
this. Wait.
no, but
How is
and
this?
your friend right here sent you a letter, and he can bring you up to speed
Good.
on this. Governor, you've
How
sent
is
a
the
letter.
whale? Paul, you know this.
Yes.
How is the whale hurting what they're doing?
The right whale is not hurting them. In fact, in the last 2 decades, there's not been an entanglement or a death in Maine waters. Now, they found some dead whales in Maine waters, but they came down from where the problem area is, and as we've talked about earlier, the St. Lawrence Seaway. At the mouth of the St. Lawrence Seaway is where all the deaths and entanglements
So
are.
how do we solve this problem?
We solve this problem by going to NOAA and telling them to get reasonable about their regulations.
Going to where?
NOAA. They are the problem, and I've worked 2 years. I've worked
So
6 years.
you know what reasonable means then, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so get 'em
That
done.
is correct.
Get them done. All right, you'll work that, David.
I'll talk to them.
Okay.
We just want our voices heard in the process.
We'll be able to. I assume there's a good solution to that, right?
Yes, there is.
Okay, work on it. And we want to
There's a-
protect the
there's a-
whale. I want to protect the whale too.
As we do
As
too.
long as we can protect the whale, I'm going to do it. All right, so I'm going to leave it to you.
We're in, and I will say, he said one thing that is so true about the fishermen in Maine. Maine has the only sustainable lobster fishery and certified in the world. These people will go bend over backwards to save the laying, you know, those are the layers and the youth. I mean, they just bend over backwards. It's not robbing the bottom. And the one thing about a Maine
You've been treated
lobster-
very badly. You know that, right?
Is it-
You better remember your president.
the one
You've been
thing about a
treated, no,
Maine
you
lobster-
guys, you've been treated very badly. I know what they've done to you. They've regulated you out of business. And yet you treated the area like it was your home. I know that. Go ahead.
The one thing that Washington has never understood, the Maine lobsterman is a family-owned business. It's hand-me-down from father to son for generations and generations. If father kills all the lobster, son is going to starve. And that's what the lobster industry is in Maine. It's the only one in the world. And Washington bureaucrats are telling us we don't know how to fish.
We got it. All right?
you,
You'll work
sir.
with Paul on that.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. John Williams, owner of the Atlantic Red Crab Company. Going to change species a little bit. I'm in the crab business, not the lobster business. I've been fishing in this area that the 5,000 square miles personally since 1995, and there were people there before I was in there. And the interesting thing is going on Maggie Raymond's point is the lack of transparency in the process of setting these 5,000 miles apart. The industry was never given the opportunity to get involved. It was like an
Well, not like now.
exactly, no, and we appreciate it. And then on
Who
one
knows more than the industry?
one talking point, and your 2.5.
So were you stopped from fishing in the 5,000 miles in Basin?
in that 5,000
So
miles?
what? And that's prime area, right?
Well, this is the ironic part of the whole thing. They said that they had to shut that 5,000 miles down for an emergency presidential action, and I was very vocal about it, and they grandfathered me for 7 more years in that 5,000 mile area. So if there
So
was
when is the 7 years up?
we're about halfway through it.
Oh, you're lucky you just made it, huh?
We've had our fingers crossed since you got elected.
So is that very fertile in terms of crabs?
Yes, it's very fertile.
Because nobody's taking them, right?
It's we harvest from Virginia all the way to Canada.
So they gave you a grandfather of 7 years, and your
Yeah.
7 years is up.
Then
How
we're
many
out.
people were grandfathered?
It was my fishery and the offshore lobster fishery.
You must be a rich guy, right? Now, let me
I
ask
have a
you
good
this.
banker.
Do you have the problem with the European Union too?
I don't do very much export to Europe. Most of it's domestic.
You can't with the tariff. You can't.
Exactly.
So you don't bother.
And the other thing is I want to bring up that hasn't been brought up is we have a public process that's been in place for years and years and years to protect our resources and the ocean floor. And when you gasped at 5,000 miles at how big of an area that is, since 95, I think there's been, you'd have to correct me, but it's roughly 60,000 miles have been protected already, but they were protected in arenas like this that included scientists, fishermen, and environmentalists.
And is that wrong?
That's right.
So you like it?
I think when you get a group of scientists and
Okay. So there you think we did the right thing?
I think that
Meaning people did the right thing.
I think that it's the public process as cumbersome as it can be, and sometimes I walked out of meetings not happy with the results, but it works.
But at least it went through a process.
It allows
And this did not go through a process.
zero. We had zero
Right?
words.
This didn't go through a
And
process.
this
This
one-
was done for politics. I
Total
got it.
politics. Just one last comment on it is of course where the industry was left to remain completely silent and not go public, the millions of literature and propaganda and websites and everything that were out there saying we need to save this 5,000 miles because this bottom is pristine and we can't allow these fishermen in there because it's pristine. Well, we've been in there for 40 years. And so if the environmental groups can deem the place pristine, and we've been operating in that area for 40 years and they can't find any evidence where we've done any damage, I would say we've been pretty good stewards of that 5,000 miles.
It's great stuff down there, right?
Oh, it's great stuff.
Great stuff. Take care of it. All right? That's the one thing I'm asking you. Take care of it, okay? Please, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, my name's James Odlin. I've been involved in this fisheries for 50 years off New England, both as a captain and as a vessel fleet owner. And I served on the council for 9 years, helping make some of these regulations. I worked on the Habitat Committee issues, where we worked for many years, and then we were ready to roll, and all of a sudden, we get this order that said, your work doesn't matter, we're going to close 5,000 whole square miles. We were looking at discrete,
So this is a really
special
big, this is a
areas.
really big deal for you people, isn't it?
We worked long and
This is
hard
the
on that
whole
issue.
deal.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I just get one other thing, Mr. President. You know, I want to reiterate that the stocks of fish off New England, ground fish, are at historic highs
Is that because you were stopped from
because
fishing?
of proper fish management. The issue is we've got millions of pounds of fish out there that are not getting caught annually, which would equate into hundreds and hundreds of jobs.
So will I
We
be
need-
allowed to go fishing in that 5,000-mile piece?
you
Would you
could.
mind if I took a little boat and went fishing out there?
So we've got some regulations that are preventing us from harvesting these healthy, sustainable fish stocks. And we need help getting those
Is that
regulations.
not being taken care of in what we're doing?
Well, I just heard this now that they've asked the National Marine Fisheries Service and Commerce to look at some of those regulations.
Do you know about it?
Yeah, it's a commerce issue. I'm happy
Right.
to work
You
with
got
them on
it.
it.
Just take it over.
But I have some worries that they will just tweak around the edges and not really do.
All right. David will take it
I have
over.
some inside information that that's what's going to
Okay,
happen.
we got it.
If I may, sir, the executive order that you signed several weeks ago has very clear, direct instructions to take care of those regulations. So this president is already on this case. There is a process underway, and that gentleman across the way will ensure that the commercial fishermen of this state will be able to fish the waters here without undue regulation. Full
So we're
stop.
cutting regulations from highways and roadways to fish. And
That's
that's what Peter's talking about. Go ahead,
Yes,
Pete,
sir.
do you have anything to say?
This is the jobs president. This trip today goes and creates jobs from Brunswick and Bath to Bangor and Guilford, all the way up and down from Bar Harbor down to Kennebunkport. And this president is the working class president, and this state is a hard scrabble state. It's a working class state, and people in this state should not have to face a federal government that takes away your livelihood. These two executive orders combined are the greatest news for commercial fishermen in the last 50 years. And this first order will clear off the decks of undue regulation. The second order, as soon as he signs that and gives away the pens to all you folks here, will set free the fishermen of this state.
Well, they
It's a
took
great
your lives
day.
away. They took your livelihood away from you, so that's good. So thank you, Peter.
Yes, sir.
Well said. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I just wanted to thank you for coming to the state of Maine to talk to our commercial fishing industry. As was pointed out already, it is a first, and we truly appreciate it. And we also appreciate the action you're taking today. I don't think there's a single industry person around this table that disagrees on the need for it and why it is so important. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Beth Tooley. I am the Government Affairs Manager for the O'Hara Corporation out of Rockland, Maine. I brought the boss with me today. He's on the other side of the table, Frank O'Hara Jr., president of a family-held company, as I said, in Rockland, Maine. And I know that he spoke already. He provides an awesome history of a family-held company that started in 1907 in T Wharf in Boston, Massachusetts, has been present here in the state of Maine since 1944, and is definitely multi-generational. He has sons coming up and grandchildren being born, and the goal of the company is
Good.
to maintain
Well, now they
sustainable
have a place,
fish.
right?
So
Now
I
they
don't know,
have a
Frank,
place.
if you want to add anything to that before I go on?
What's that?
Do you want to add anything on that before I go on?
No, you got it. You know, we've been around for a while. We've gotten through wars, depressions. We've gotten through overfishing from the
But
foreign
this
countries.
was the worst thing that you've been through, I'll bet, right? What happened to you when they took this away?
It didn't affect us as much as it would have affected John, but it will affect us because once they take one mountain or one canyon, they'll take another one and another one. They'll go over to the West Coast.
Are you involved in that area, the 5,000 miles?
We used to be, but we're not. We do scalloping, which is more to the south of that. So our scallop boats, which is replicated by that model over there, we do some scallops, but mostly it's crab and lobsters out that way. We're flatfish.
Is that a new boat? Like
it is. It was a new boat built down in
so
Duckworth.
they look pretty old, right? There's a lot of design talent there, huh?
Yeah. They got the new bulbous bow and a quart nozzle. It's lower carbon footprint. We're building another boat starting next year.
How much, brand new, how much does that boat cost?
Just under $4 million.
How much?
Just under $4 million.
It's the real deal, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, good. Well, you're in good shape. Thank you very much.
So if I could, excuse me, I'm sorry, I just had.
Go ahead, please.
But I just wanted to say very briefly, because I don't need to be repetitive, I am a former member of the New England Fishery Management Council and served for 9 years on that council. And so you have here around the table current members of the council, past members of the council. Most of our industry people have all served as advisory panel members to council's committees, and we hope one former council member as well. And as the public process, I think people have outlined why we think it's so important, and we certainly do endorse that. And I will leave it at that. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Good job. Please.
Hi, I'm Terry Alexander. I own Jordan Lynn Incorporated. It's a commercial fishing company. And I based all my comments on trying to convince you to sign that executive order, so they're pretty moot now. But I would just like to point out some of the highlights on it, and then maybe touch on some ideas.
We'll go quick.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President, for supporting our nation's fisheries and fishing communities. These monuments, even though they're south of New England, they push people, they displace people, and they're affecting the entire fleet all the way to shore. So it's a good thing to open up area.
So that gets solved.
Right. Yeah. So
excuse me. Are there media from Maine here? Who's? Are you liking what we're doing? Huh? You can say yes. You do. Anybody else from Maine? From the area? They all come up from Washington, unfortunately. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's already done. So I'm gonna touch on a couple ideas, how the Canadians, how it's not fair for the Canadians, the way we compete against the Canadians offshore.
Tell me about that.
All right, so we try to catch haddock, different size, same fish. We negotiate with the Canadians every year.
And how do you find negotiating with them?
They're pretty good. I'm on the TMGC. I'm on the New England Fisheries Management Council. I'm in my 8th year there. They've been good, and we negotiate every year, and they catch their entire quota almost every year. We catch 10% of our quota every year.
What's the difference in the size of the quota?
Well, we're about even on haddock, but it's because of our regulations over here. Our mesh size is the wrong size for catching haddock over here. That needs to be fixed, and we can get that stuff done through the council.
Yeah. Go ahead.
We need that stuff done through the council.
Sell that on eBay tonight.
I won't sell it.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
But we can fix that through the council. We just need the incentive of DC pushing that stuff,
Well,
that
we'll
kind
get
of
that
stuff
done.
done.
And you're working on that.
Yeah. So
We'll get that done.
yeah.
It's an honor to be doing what we're doing. I mean, you people, basically, they took away your livelihood. It's ridiculous. Took away your life. Wait a minute, 1 second. I'm going to sign this for you. Here. Whoever wants this, here. We'll take them. So come on around real quick, and we're going to sign this up.
Everybody get
And take one of these. You could hand that out. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Maybe give a little room, I guess. Congratulations. Come on, David. Come on, Peter. So we're giving Maine back a big part of its history a big part of its industry, and we're giving you back your fishing rights to 5,000 miles of square miles. That's a lot. Boy, that's a big chunk. That's a big chunk of water, isn't it? So do very well. Say hello to the people of Maine. They're great people. They were very nice to me. I'll tell you that. And I appreciate it very much, but I know you appreciate it much more than I do, because you're getting a lot more than I am, okay? So good luck, everybody. And they're going to work on those other things with Peter and David. Okay? Okay, pass them out, fellas. Okay, pass them out. Okay, got them? You got them? We'll take that. You got that. Thank you. Great job. Good luck, everybody. Thank you. All right, we're on it. Go get them.